Well, there certainly were no shortage of heroes here in Fort McMurray 12 months ago. Right now, though, we're going to introduce you to perhaps some unsung heroes, specifically the voices of 97.9 Rock and Country 93.3, who remained on air as the fire crackled overhead, ensuring that residents received the vital information they needed to safely evacuate. But while their resiliency never wavered on air, off air, it was a different story.
Good morning, Fort McMurray. It's minus 16.
Today marks Brad KARP's first day on the job at Country 93.3 in Fort McMurray. Well, sort of. KARP worked here until July 2016, when he moved to Edmonton for a TV job on dinner television.
Every time we do a story on the fire at DT, it was kind of tough. You know, just seeing those images and talking about it wasn't easy. I know some people have had to leave, but for me, I had to come back.
Brad KARP in for, well, Pete. He's gone to get his stuff, and you should too.
KARP was one of the last to leave as the wildfire tore through the city. As more than 80,000 residents fled to safety through a tunnel of smoke and flames, KARP and his team remained stoic, risking their lives as they escaped their downtown radio station to a tiny room at the Timberley RCMP detachment.
It's Mike Jones. We're at Timberley RCMP. We're having technical issues, trying to stay as connected as we can for as long as we can.
We did some breathing exercises on the air and all kinds of stuff, and just tried to reassure people that, you know, if they listen to us and they listen to the instructions that we were getting from the RCMP and from the fire department and from the municipality, that hopefully everything would be okay.
And everything was okay. No lives were lost to the beast. But while everyone escaped the flames, not all have broken free from the fire.
Your body was running on adrenaline for 3 months, and we were. So you have that crash. And on top of that, the emotions.
Radio boss John Knox and his team kept reporting on the blaze online, even as they evacuated to a hotel in Edmonton. Keeping the composure required of a manager was not easy, as the fate of his own home twisted in the fire's violent winds. But part of that burden would be lifted days later, thanks to a friend on the front lines.
Kyle stopped the truck in the middle of Thickwood Boulevard and took pictures of our home so I could know. That was tremendously burden lifted to get those in my email, on my Facebook, whatever it was, and know, hey, it's all still there. We have a place to go back to.
John was among the first to return to Fort McMurray in early June, playing a vital role in the re-entry. He kept the burden of the beast at bay personally, thanks to his countless hours of work at the station and with the public. That is, until September, when his confident front came crashing down.
One of the things I asked my counselors, why am I crying? I didn't lose anything. And he said, but you did. He goes, you lost your sense of security. You saw cracks in the veneer of public safety and all those kinds of things that we all just take for granted in our day-to-day lives.
John and his longtime partner also parted ways, though he insists the fire merely spotlighted their differences and that they still remain friends. Still, it was another thing consumed by the blaze. John needed an escape from his adopted home, hence a trip to visit friends in California.
I didn't respond to work emails. I didn't even have access to them. And that break from all things radio in Fort McMurray for 10 days was amazing, to the point where I have another one set up, because that time away is so important.
Time is John's prescription, even though he admits his normal is still a few years away. But he's well on his path to recovery and hopes to impart those lessons on radio staff who are still battling their own demons.
And if the RCMP suggests that you need to go north, you need to listen.
Part of that includes reminding them how their bravery amidst potential peril helped to save more than 80,000 lives.
I managed to watch a team of people that I lead do their very best work of their entire careers to date under the most trying circumstances with the most minimal, no radio station of resources. That's a pretty damn proud moment as a manager.
Good morning, Fort McMurray. Not a whole lot to say about the roads. Traffic looking pretty clear.
Brad KARP feels that same pride. It's part of the reason he's back. He likens his return to McMurray to a family reunion. He may be from Montreal, but home is here. And he knows his personal recovery will mirror that of the city. That as Fort McMurray's visible scars heal, so too will his emotional wounds.
I was amongst people who knew what I was going through, right? And I know that I could walk into a grocery store and let's say, you know, someone was breaking down and you'd see people go and give them a hug. And this was the strongest community that I'd ever lived in before the fire, and afterwards it's so much stronger.
People understand Fort McMurray much more than they did a year ago. When the visuals hit of staff, students, people who live in the community on site, there was a connection with the rest of Canada. In my opinion, it wasn't the connection that was always there. So it made a big difference for the community to have that support nationwide and internationally. And I think that's helped us as we rebuild. I would say thank you actually to an individual who I never met, but he was carrying a gas can, and we were stuck in a line of hundreds and hundreds of vehicles, and so many people were running out of gas. And this individual took it upon himself to just walk down that line, and that really summarized it for me.
Hey, I suggest go north. I was just driving through there, and we literally just drove through fire. Do not go south.
Go north at this point, then. Please go north.
Go around at any chance you can.
I really think that what the world saw with the wildfire is that Fort McMurray isn't just an oil industry town. We are a community. We were a community that was in pain, that was suffering, and that was fearful for our future. I hope it's changed the way that the rest of the province, the rest of the country, and even the world looks at Fort McMurray and sees we're not just oil, we're more than oil, we're a community.
One thing that's gotten bigger since the wildfires, the sense of home, the sense of this is our community and we care more about it now.
I'm not too sure what it is that bonds us, but I think it's partly the ups and downs of the community, the big oil booms, the bus, just being able to pull through.
There is a spirit here that I can't really describe. There's a resiliency and a willingness to build on that resiliency and a true dedication to this part of Alberta. I've heard consistently from residents that they are determined to stay and make it work. And it's a resounding theme that I hear weekly. And so it's a special place.
Place of community, I think generosity. I think it's definitely a place that's healing and growing again. And I still think it's the strong community that I moved into 8 years ago and will stay in for a long time.
We're now a family. We're not just strangers that live close by.
Seeing new buildings in a place that was completely leveled, that's encouragement a year later, and I think is a wonderful picture of Fort McMurray's great journey to recovery.
We're a community that is a family. When a community member is in need or a community member is suffering, we work to alleviate that. And you can see that over and over again.
We're known, in my opinion, as the most generous community in Canada. I mean, we've raised so much money for our charities based on all of our community support. So I think moving forward, we just like to keep Fort McMurray in a positive light to make sure that, you know, we can continue going forward as a city.
And the outstanding support that we got from every corner of Canada. I'm still overwhelmed by it. But the fact that they met us face to face, they saw that we were real people doing real jobs and that we were really in trouble at that point. It's changed the story. They know that we are people just like them, and we are so grateful to have had their support.
And you can take your flames and throw them down. Something you should know about this town. We'll be back once more. Even stronger, even stronger.
Well, the adage goes that tragedy brings out the best in people. And nowhere was that more evident than here in Fort McMurray on May 3rd, 2016. 90,000 people coming together, facing unquestionably the most daunting challenge of their lives, and working in unison, overcoming. 12 months later, that work still continues as the rebuild of Fort McMurray is underway. But as we can see here at the park today, at the event to commemorate that anniversary, smiles and hugs, proving that Fort McMurray will rise again.